Everyone keeps telling you the same lie. Be brave. Wait for courage. One day you'll feel ready. But the people who actually change their lives are not waiting for courage at all. They wake up scared, doubting themselves, hearts racing, and still move like something inside them cannot disobey. They don't feel different from you. They are bound by something different from you. Tonight, you will not hear another motivation speech. You will step into a frozen village at the edge of the world, where a single decision in the snow turns a soft, overthinking boy into a man whose word is stronger than iron. Not because he became fearless, but because he discovered the one Viking rule that made action more important than feelings. If you've ever said, "Tomorrow I'll change," and then watched tomorrow die, this story is for you. Listen carefully, because once you understand this code, you will never again be able to lie to yourself and feel comfortable. Year 882, Western Norway. Leif was 21 and famous in his village for all the wrong reasons. He was the boy who promised everything and finished nothing. He promised his mother he would fix the roof before winter. The snow arrived first. He promised his younger sister he would teach her to shoot a bow. The string stayed untouched for months. He knew every verse of the old poems. He could repeat the names of kings, warriors, battles. He spoke of someday like it was already written in the sky. Someday he would sail, someday he would fight. Someday he would become someone worth singing about. But each night he lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of 1,000 broken somedays sitting on his chest. The village gave him a nickname, not warrior, not farmer. They called him Leif the Later. Every time he walked through the market, he heard it. "Leif, will you help us carry the timber, or will you do it later?" They laughed. He laughed back. But at night the joke rotted into shame. One stormy evening, his father came in from the fields, soaked and furious. Another fence had collapsed because Leif hadn't repaired it when he said he would. The animals wandered all day. 2 sheep were gone. His father slammed a broken post onto the table so hard the bowls jumped. "You are not unlucky," his father said. "You are untrustworthy. You do not have a life. You have a pile of promises rotting in the corner." Leif tried to defend himself. "I'm just not ready yet. I need to get stronger. I need more time." His father's reply cut deeper than any blade. "You're not waiting to be ready. You're waiting to feel different. And while you wait for a feeling, life moves without you." That night, Leif lay awake and understood something horrible. He did not fear failure. He feared the moment he would finally discover who he truly was, if he actually tried. The next morning, the wind howled like a beast across the fjord. Leif walked into the forest, not to train, not to hunt, but simply to escape the noise inside his own head. Snow crunched under his boots. His lungs burned in the cold. He had no plan, just motion. After an hour, he saw smoke drifting between the trees. Curious, he followed it to a small clearing where an old man sat beside a narrow river, sharpening an axe on a stone. His hair was white, his beard braided, his cloak thick with frost. But his eyes were what froze Leif in place. There was no anger, no fear, no rush in them. Just a quiet, heavy certainty, like mountains. Without looking up, the old man spoke. "You walk like someone carrying a grave on his back." Leif blinked. You You know me? The man snorted. Everyone knows you, Leif the Later, the boy who treats his own word like smoke. Shame punched through Leif's stomach. You don't understand, he started. I want to change. I want to be brave. The old man finally looked up. There it is, he said, the poison word. Leif frowned. Which word? Want. The man spat into the snow. Want is the word people use right before they do nothing. Vikings had no respect for want. They respected one thing, the man whose word and actions could not separate. Leif hesitated. Were you a warrior? The man's jaw tightened. Once they called me a name that meant more than warrior. They called me someone whose word could not bend. Leif's heart kicked. He had heard whispers of that title in old songs, but never understood it. How did you get that name? The old man looked at him for a long time, studying him the way a smith studies weak metal. He said, Come to the river at dawn. Wear the lightest clothes you own. If you arrive, I'll show you why your life keeps slipping through your fingers. If you don't, you won't need me. Your future is already decided. Leif swallowed. I'll be there, I promise. The old man's eyes hardened. Your promises mean nothing yet. Tomorrow, we see if your legs can do what your mouth keeps saying. The next morning, the wind howled like a beast across the fjord. Leif walked into the forest, not to train, not to hunt, but simply to escape the noise inside his own head. Snow crunched under his boots, his lungs burned in the cold. He had no plan, just motion. After an hour, he saw smoke drifting between the trees. Curious, he followed it to a small clearing where an old man sat beside a narrow river, sharpening an axe on a stone. His hair was white, his beard braided, his cloak thick with frost. But his eyes were what froze Leif in place. There was no anger, no fear, no rush in them, just a quiet, heavy certainty, like mountains. Without looking up, the old man spoke. You walk like someone carrying a grave on his back. Leif blinked. You know me? The man snorted. Everyone knows you, Leif the Later, the boy who treats his own word like smoke. Shame punched through Leif's stomach. You don't understand, he started. I want to change. I want to be brave. The old man finally looked up. There it is, he said, the poison word. Leif frowned. Which word? Want. The man spat into the snow. Want is the word people use right before they do nothing. Vikings had no respect for want. They respected one thing, the man whose word and actions could not separate. Leif hesitated. Were you a warrior? The man's jaw tightened. Once they called me a name that meant more than warrior. They called me someone whose word could not bend. Leif's heart kicked. He had heard whispers of that title in old songs, but never understood it. How did you get that name? The old man looked at him for a long time, studying him the way a smith studies weak metal. He said, Come to the river at dawn. Wear the lightest clothes you own. If you arrive, I'll show you why your life keeps slipping through your fingers. If you don't, you won't need me. Your future is already decided. Leif swallowed. I'll be there, I promise. The old man's eyes hardened. Your promises mean nothing yet. Tomorrow, we see if your legs can do what your mouth keeps saying.
Leif did not sleep. All night his mind argued with itself. This is stupid. It's just an old man. You can go another day. It's too cold. You'll get sick. You're not ready. His heart pounded, his stomach twisted. He almost convinced himself to stay. But somewhere, beneath the excuses, another thought whispered, "If you don't go, you have proven your father right forever." Before the sun rose, he wrapped himself in a thin tunic and walked into the darkness. The cold sliced into him like knives. Every step was a debate. You can turn back now and nobody will know. But I will know. He reached the riverbank just as the first gray light touched the sky. The old man was already there, standing barefoot in the snow as if it were summer grass. No shiver, no complaint, just presence. "You came," the old man said quietly. "Yes," Leif replied, teeth chattering. "Not important that you said yes, important that your feet agreed." He pointed at the river. The water was black, angry, tearing past chunks of ice. "Take off your tunic, walk into the river until it reaches your chest. Then stand, no moving, no speaking, no counting. When I tell you to come out, you come. If you walk out earlier, you go home and be Leif the Later for the rest of your life. No more complaining aloud. That is who you chose to be." Leif stared in horror. "I'll die." "Maybe," the man shrugged. "But that's not your real fear. You're not afraid of the water. You're afraid of discovering whether you are capable of obeying yourself." Leif's hands shook as he pulled off his tunic. The air bit into his skin like fire made of ice. His breath turned into frantic clouds. "One step," the old man said from the shore, "not into the river, into being someone whose body obeys his word." Leif stepped forward. The water seized his ankles like claws. His brain screamed, "Run! Jump back! This is insane!" He took another step, and another. The river rose to his knees, his waist, his ribs. Each inch felt like 1,000 heated needles stabbing into him. His lungs spasmed, his heart hammered against his ribs like it wanted to escape. "Stop thinking," the old man called from the shore. "Thinking is where you always lose." The water reached his chest. He gasped like an animal. His vision blurred at the edges. Every cell in his body screamed the same word, "Out!" He wanted to run, to scream, to beg for mercy. Instead, he remembered something his father said. "You do not have a life. You have a pile of promises rotting in the corner." Leif clenched his jaw so tight it hurt. "I said I would stand. If I leave now, I prove that my word is just noise." Something shifted. The pain didn't vanish, but it changed shape. It became background. He stopped arguing with it. "This is not about cold. This is about who I am allowed to be." Time became strange. His body shook uncontrollably, but his mind grew quiet. Not calm, but clear. There were only two options now: stay and become someone new, or leave and stay who he had always been. Finally, the old man's voice cut through the roar of the river. "Come out." He tried to move. His legs refused. He dragged them, stumbled, almost fell. Step by step, he crawled back to the shore, half numb, teeth crashing together. The old man wrapped him in a thick cloak and shoved him near a fire that had been burning the entire time. 41 minutes, the old man said, longer than most trained men last their first time. Leif tried to speak through the shivering. I didn't know I could do that." The old man shook his head. "No, you learned something far more important.
You learned that you are not someone who could stand in the river. You are someone who did. Identity, not possibility. Remember that difference, or you will lose everything you just earned.
The next morning, Leif woke up feeling like he had been beaten with logs. His muscles screamed, his bones ached. His mind attacked him with soft, reasonable lies. You proved yourself yesterday. You earned a rest. One day off will not matter. This was the voice that had quietly killed every goal he'd ever had. It sounded kind. It sounded logical. It always ended the same way. Nothing changed. Leif sat on the edge of his bed. The fire in the house had gone out. His breath showed white in the air. If I stay, he thought, I go back to the old story. If I go, I might write a new one. He stood up. That single movement felt heavier than all the weights in the world. When he reached the river, the old man was waiting again, as if he had never moved from the spot. "You came," the old man said. This time there was a hint of something new in his voice. Not surprise, not praise, recognition. "Do you know why that matters?" he asked. "Because I said I would," Leif answered. "Partly," the old man nodded. "But deeper than that, because each morning you walk here, you are killing someone." Leif frowned. "Killing who?" "The version of you that negotiates. The one that says, 'later,' and 'tomorrow,' and 'I don't feel like it.' He cannot survive repeated obedience. Every time you walk here, you swing an axe at his neck." Leif swallowed. The image was brutal, but it felt true. "So, am I becoming fearless?" he asked. The old man laughed, dry and sharp. "Fearless? No. Fear will walk beside you for the rest of your life. But if you continue, something more important will happen. Your fear will lose the right to vote." He led Leif not to the river, but to a steep hillside covered in snow and rocks. "Climb," he said. "All the way up, all the way down. Then again. Do not ask how many times. Do not ask when we stop. Those are questions for people who still believe their feelings get to decide." Leif looked at the slope. His legs already trembled from the previous day. He opened his mouth to protest, then caught himself. Every complaint was a seed of the old Leif. If he watered it, it would grow back. So he closed his mouth and climbed. He slipped. He fell. He cut his hands on stones hidden beneath the snow. His lungs burned like they were full of smoke. At one point, he screamed, not words, just noise. But he did not stop. Every time his body begged him to quit, he thought, "I am not here to feel okay. I am here to become someone I can no longer lie to." Hours later, when his legs shook so violently he could barely stand, the old man finally raised a hand. "Enough." Leif collapsed to his knees, chest heaving. The old man crouched beside him. "Today you did not train your body. You trained something far more dangerous. You trained your relationship with your own word. You treated your promise like a command, not a suggestion. That is how men become unbreakable." Leif looked up, eyes burning. "What is your name?" he asked. The old man smiled for the first time. "Call me what my brothers called me when I was young. Call me the man whose word never snapped under weight. Call me the name you are trying to earn. Leif whispered it, tasting it like a vow. Weeks passed. Snow melted. The river softened. But Leif's mornings did not change. There were days his head pounded, days his hands shook, days his mind screamed with old excuses. You are tired. You are sick. You deserve rest. On those days, he walked to the river anyway. Sometimes the old man made him stand in the water again. Sometimes he made him run, lift, fight, fall. Sometimes he only made him sit in silence and hold one posture until his muscles burned. But the real training was invisible. Leif stopped saying, "I will try." He stopped saying, "I hope I can." He started speaking in a different language. I am the kind of man who shows up. I am the kind of man who keeps his word. Something subtle but massive shifted. One morning, he woke before dawn without an alarm, already half-dressed before he was fully conscious. His feet moved toward the door before his thoughts had time to form an argument. That day, the old man watched him with a different gaze. "You feel it now, don't you?" he asked. "Feel what?" "The moment your question died." Leif realized he hadn't asked himself, "Should I go to the river?" in days. The decision was gone. It wasn't a choice anymore. It was who he was. The old man sat on a rock and drew a line in the dirt with a stick. "On this side," he said, "live the people waiting to feel ready. They read, they plan, they talk. Their lives are full of ideas and empty of proof. On this side, live the people bound by a code. They are often afraid, often unsure, but their word is iron. Once they say, 'This is who I am,' they move as if turning back would rip their own soul in half." He looked at Leif. "You have placed one foot on each side your whole life. That's why you are tired all the time, not from work, from self-betrayal. Today, you choose." Leif stared at the line. He thought about every promise he'd broken to himself. Every night he'd said, "tomorrow," and watched that tomorrow die. Every time he'd known what to do and done nothing. He stepped over the line. It was just a movement of a foot, but he felt something behind him close, like a door that would never open again. The old man nodded. "From this day forward," he said, "you are not allowed to ask, 'Do I feel like it?' The only question you may ask is, 'Would breaking my word make me someone I refuse to be?' If the answer is yes, you act. Tired or not, afraid or not, ready or not." Years later, when storms came, when sickness hit, when his friends begged him to skip training, when opportunities appeared that required terrifying risks, Leif did not look for courage. He looked at his code. Does my word allow me to stay the same? If the answer was no, he moved. People called him many things in the years to come: captain, protector, leader, but the title that mattered most wasn't spoken loudly. It lived quietly, in the way people trusted him with their lives. They knew one thing: if he said he would stand, he would stand, even if the river rose above his neck. Now it is your turn. You do not need more courage. You do not need more motivation videos, more perfect mornings, more some days. You need a code that makes breaking your word more painful than doing the hard thing. So choose one identity right now. I am someone who finishes what they start, trains every day, builds that business, speaks the hard truth. Write it. Say it out loud. Then give yourself 90 days where this is not a goal, but a law. No negotiation, no later. Every morning, your feet obey what your mouth declared. After those 90 days, you will not recognize the person who kept waiting to feel ready. You will have killed them on purpose. And in their place will stand someone whose life finally matches their words. Now go. Not when you feel like it. Now.